Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, where we discuss all the news in the world of basketball, college, NBA, high school, movies, whatever it may be. Anything basketball, it's being discussed right here at the GSMC Basketball Podcast. My name is Ben Brown. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us today. We have another action-packed show for you this morning, leading you in to a really busy weekend in the world of basketball. College basketball is right in the thick of things right now in conference play, and in the NBA, the big game of the weekend, the game everyone has circled on their calendar since July 4th, the first game, the return of Kevin Durant in Oklahoma City to take on the Thunder. We'll talk about that briefly in the first segment, just after we talk about the games from last night in the NBA. The Rockets win 107-95 over the Charlotte Hornets. James Harden had 30 points, 11 rebounds, and 8 assists. The Rockets pick up their 39th win of the season. They're playing fantastic. They're currently sitting third in the Western Conference, just 3 games behind San Antonio and 7 behind Golden State. The Philadelphia 76ers, TJ McConnell hits the game winner. They win 112-111 over the Orlando Magic, and they do it without Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid still resting every other night. It seems like the Sixers are being really, really careful with their young big men, and they should be, giving his injury past. I mean, this is his rookie season, and he came out of the draft 3 years ago. So he just really can't stay healthy, and they're doing a great job of monitoring his minutes, giving him rest when needed. And they're honestly playing well. I mean, Dario Saric, the other rookie, had 24 points, 8 rebounds, and 1 assist off the bench last night. They have 19 wins. They had 10 all of last year. I really do like what the Sixers are doing, and it's really just a matter of getting some more good young players to build around all these big men they have. And I think they'll really be good in 2-3 years. I think if Embiid can stay healthy, the Sixers will really develop into a very good basketball team. The big game last night was the Thunder taking on the Cavaliers. Russell Westbrook, yet again, another triple-double. I mean, what else is new, right? Russ had 29 points, 12 rebounds, and 11 assists. Although he did have the triple-double, he did not really shoot well. He shot 11 of 27 and 2 of 6 from 3. So he's still jacking up the shots, but nevertheless, they do get the victory by 9 over Cleveland. There were reports from Tyronn Lue that he might rest his big 3, Kevin Love, LeBron James, and Kyrie Irving. But that was not the case. All 3 of them played. Kyrie had 28 points, 4 assists. LeBron James had 18 points. He shot bad as well, 8 of 19. To go along with his 18 points, he had 7 assists and 5 rebounds. And Kevin Love was probably the best of the 3, 15 points and 12 rebounds. I mean, Kyrie had 28, but still, I mean, I thought Kevin Love played really well. Derek Williams in his first game had 12 points. He shot 3 of 3 and 6 of 8 from free throw line. So he played pretty well. I think he can add some depth off the bench. He's really like a stretch power forward, can maybe step out, hit the 3 occasionally. He's not great, but he's not a terrible player. I think it's an okay move. So the Cavaliers I really want to talk about them for a while now. They're 11-9 in 2017, just simply not playing well in 2017 at all. And a lot of the other teams are catching up to them. I mean, Toronto's 4, Washington's 3. We saw what the Wizards and Cavs did on Monday. That game went to overtime. It was a thriller. And you have the Boston Celtics at 34-19, only 2.5 back of Cleveland right now. I feel like come playoff time, as it stands currently, the Cavaliers could be in a little bit of a trouble. I mean, Toronto, we saw what they did to them last year. They pushed them to the Eastern Conference Finals, although the Cavaliers kind of dominated them. They, of course, have a dynamic backcourt with Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan. They have some good big men in Jonas Valanciunas. So they have some capable players. The Wizards are finally playing well with Otto Porter, a great backcourt as well, and John Wall and Bradley Beal. And then you have Boston, a really, really rounded and good team. You have a star in Isaiah Thomas and Al Horford as well. And then you have a lot of good young pieces around them. They're a really athletic team who play good at home. They're 19-8 at home. So I think the Cavaliers could be in a little trouble with how they're currently playing in basketball right now. Like I said, they've played 20 games in 2017, and they only won 11 of them. They're 11-9. They're just simply not playing well right now, and especially on the road. They're 14-11. They seem to not be able to win away from Quicken Loans Arena, and that could cost them come playoff time. In overtime, the Mavericks pick up a 112-105 victory over the Utah Jazz. Utah currently 4th in the West. That's a very good win for Dallas. Dallas is playing a lot better as of late. Harrison Barnes, another great game, 31 points, 4 rebounds, and 1 assist. And Gordon Hayward, the All-Star, had 36 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists for the Jazz in the loss. The Celtics win again. Isaiah Thomas, he's been absolutely lighting it up the last couple of weeks. He's been probably the best performer of the last couple of weeks. He had 34 last night to go along with 4 assists. They beat the Blazers 120-111. Damian Lillard had 28 points, 7 assists, and 6 rebounds for Portland in the loss. So he did play really, really well. But Boston really powering through the Blazers in due part to their fourth quarter. They put up 43 points. The Celtics, they got off to a little bit of a slow start. I'll give them some credit for that. I think they maybe bought into a lot of the hype that a lot of people, a lot of media members like myself were feeding them going into the season, but they're really starting to play well now. And Isaiah Thomas, I mean, literally just the little 5'9" magician, the little magic man. He continues to impress, and he's honestly a very, very good player, so you can't deny anything that he's doing. Okay, so let's talk about some games in the NBA tonight. The Heat and their 12-game winning streak will take on the Brooklyn Nets. I really don't see any reason the Heat can't improve that win streak to 13. Although the Heat, I mean, they're not a good team. Listen to this. They're 23-30 with a 12-game winning streak. That's the longest winning streak of a sub-500 team in NBA history. So they're on a 12-game winning streak. You take those 12 wins away, they were 11-30. So they were simply not a good team. They're playing hot, no pun intended, right now. And they'll take on the Nets, who have the worst record in the NBA at 9-44. So there's really no reason the Heat can't continue to win and improve that win streak to 13. The Nuggets will go into MSG to take on the New York Knicks. The Spurs will be battling the Pistons. The Lakers go to Milwaukee to take on the Bucks. I really do feel bad for the Milwaukee Bucks. They have a great, great piece in Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's averaging 23 points, about 9 rebounds, and 5 assists. But Jabari Parker re-tears the same ACL that he tore as a rookie. I mean, it's hard enough to come back from one ACL tear, let alone 2 in the same knee, just simply 2 years apart. I hate to say it, but the young man from Duke might be done. We saw what knee injuries do to people. Chris Webber, when he was on the Kings, had a tough time coming back from a knee injury. Amari Stoudemire with the Suns, he battled injuries his whole entire career after that, especially with the knees. So if Jabari Parker can find a way to come back, I really do hope so. I hope for the kid that he can do it, but it's definitely going to be tough, especially in the same knee, that right knee. It's a bummer. He's going to be out for the rest of the season and definitely going into next season as well. The Warriors, before their game tomorrow against the Thunder, they'll be taking on the Grizzlies at FedEx Forum in Memphis. The Pelicans will be battling the Timberwolves. The Pacers will take on the Wizards. The Hawks will battle the Kings here in Sacramento, and the Bulls will be in Phoenix to take on the Phoenix Suns. It is not just the Thunder and Warriors on Saturday. There are some other games as well. The Clippers will battle the Hornets. The Bucks will take on the Pacers. The Heat will battle the Sixers. The Nuggets will take on the Cavs, and the Suns will take on the Rockets, as well as the Magic taking on the Mavericks, the Celtics taking on the Jazz. And then you look over to the Sunday games. We have the matinee, the primetime games. We have the Bulls taking on the Timberwolves. The Spurs will be battling the Knicks. The Pistons will take off against the Raptors, and the Pelicans will be on the road against the Sacramento Kings. So let's talk about this game on Saturday, the game everyone's looking forward to. The Thunder and the Warriors. KD's return to OKC. What kind of a reception is he going to get? Well, he's going to receive the boo birds. That's honestly, I mean, we all know that. He's going to get booed, although he's done a lot of great work in Oklahoma City, really kind of helped put them on the map. He's played all but 1 year, well, going into the season, all but 1 year in Oklahoma City because he was a member of the Sonics, the last Sonics team. Then he goes to Oklahoma City. Russell Westbrook gets drafted there. Then James Harden, and they have this whole big three going. And then it kind of just falls apart from there. We know the story. We know what happened. Kevin Durant leaves on 4th of July to go to the Warriors and form a super team, and they honestly look like the favorite to win it all right now, and they should. They have 4 All-Stars. They have 2 of the top 3 players in the NBA, unbelievable shooter in Klay Thompson, and one of the better big men and more physical big men in Draymond Green. So they have an absolutely fabulous team, and everything's working out. He basically just did the same thing LeBron James did, and it definitely worked out. LeBron was in Miami for 4 years, in the finals for 4 years, won 2 titles, probably should have won a third. He probably should have beat Dallas, although they kind of choked that one his first year there. So it makes a whole lot of sense why Kevin Durant would leave the franchise that he grew up with to go to the best team in the NBA. It's to win rings. That's the ultimate goal. He's got a lot of money. He's going to get money wherever he goes, and now it's about championships, and that's what happened. So, of course, the Oklahoma City fans are going to boo him, and they should, because he kind of turned the other way on them when they had something honestly great. They should have beaten the Warriors last year in the Western Conference Finals, but they, of course, choked away a 3-1 series lead. So to get so close and then just kind of give it all up, the fans are not going to take that well. So I get it, and they should boo him. Let's talk about the game in particular. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think the Warriors win the game pretty comfortably. I'd say between 10 to 15. The Thunder have a little bit of an edge in my eyes because they played last night at home against Cleveland. They don't play today, and then they play tomorrow at home. So they have a true rest day where they're not having to travel, not having to do anything. You look at the Warriors. They're in Memphis tonight. So they're traveling from Memphis to Oklahoma City. Not too far of a plane ride, but nevertheless, they will be up late because you have to leave for the airport right after the game to get into Oklahoma City early hours tomorrow morning. So they're going to be a little more tired than the Thunder are going to be. But the Warriors are a way better team, and we saw what happened in the first couple of meetings. The Warriors absolutely trounced the Thunder, although those games were in Oakland at the Oracle Arena. So I think the Warriors probably win between 10 to 15 points. As far as Durant does coming back to Oklahoma City, I think he kind of might push the initiative a little bit. Take more shots, be more assertive, be more aggressive. Durant's absolutely lit up his former team in the 2 meetings. He scored 39 points in the first one and 40 in the second one. So I do think he goes for at least 30 tomorrow. As far as how many shots it takes him to do it, I really do think he takes probably 20 shots. I think he really does push the initiative. I think the Warriors know the circumstance and the situation. They try to feed the ball to KD, and he kind of just tries to get his in addition to the team winning. As far as Westbrook, you know what you're going to get from Russell Westbrook. You're going to get full, nonstop action and power every single minute he's on the floor. He's going to probably jack up 25 to 30 shots, get 27 to 30 points. I'd say maybe 7 or 8 assists and 7 or 8 rebounds. I don't think he'll get a triple-double. I think he'll probably try to do a lot, and that'll lead to a lot of turnovers as well. I'd say maybe 4 or 5 turnovers at least for Russ. We'll have to wait and see. The other compelling storyline that you might want to look at here is Zaza Pachulia against Russell Westbrook. You remember in the second meeting that quote-unquote hard foul, and Westbrook after the game talking about how, he's going to get he'll get his revenge on Pachulia. This is the first meeting since that game, and it is in Oklahoma City. So, interesting to see what happens there. If there's potentially a hard foul one way or another, could lead to a little bit of a brawl, a little bit of a scuffle. That could be interesting to look out and look forward to come Saturday. I'm definitely excited. I'm definitely looking forward to the game. I'll be watching the game. And on Monday, Pauline and I will talk about our sort of reactions and what the game was and how it went down here at the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. But we'll take our first break of the show. After the break, we're going to talk about college basketball. Great games last night. Duke and North Carolina renew their rivalry, and UCLA and Oregon go down to the wire out on the West Coast. Not to mention the games coming into the weekend as well. Here at the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, we'll take our first break. Don't you guys go anywhere.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Duke and North Carolina, the battle of Chapel Hill, the Battle of Tobacco Road. The last 96 meetings between these two teams, this is how even this rivalry has been. They've both won 48 games, so they're 48-48, and they've scored the exact same amount of points. That literally is how even this rivalry is. So what is that? The last 48 meetings, I'm sure there might be a meeting or two in the ACC tournament mixed in there. So let's say the last 22, 23, 24 years maybe. These teams have been practically identical. Both with some national championships mixed in there. Duke more recently. North Carolina was the runner-up last year against Villanova, and they lost in dramatic fashion, of course. But this game literally between these two schools is always a blast. The game last night in Cameron Indoor Stadium at Duke, and they come out on top. The number 18 Blue Devils do defeat North Carolina 86-78. North Carolina was ranked number 8. That's obviously going to change going into next week's poll. Grayson Allen making news for actually good reasons this time and not for tripping people or punching anyone or pushing officials or assistant coaches. Actually played really good last night. The junior had 25 points. He shot 7 of 12 from 3 and led the Blue Devils in scoring. Justin Jackson had 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 steals for North Carolina in the loss. I mean, this game, Duke was up by 1 at halftime, and in the second half, they really started pulling away and were in control really the whole entire game. I think a lot of that having to do because they were at home. They do have that the Cameron crazies. I mean, this is literally how crazy the Cameron crazies are. So the student section at Duke, in order to even get a seat in the student section at that gym, you have to pass a basic Duke basketball proficiency test with 37 short answer questions. Not multiple choice. You have to write it in. Things like who led them in scoring in a certain game, who led them in scoring at the most recent scrimmage. Like, you literally have to be diehard in order to even get a seat in the student section. I mean, that's how good and how crazy and how passionate some of these fans and students are in college basketball and really in college sports. It's the one thing I do love all the time in the collegiate game. It's just the fans and the players, they're not getting contracts yet. They're not getting paid for anything, so they're playing a lot of the times for their schools. I'd say more so in football because a lot of times in basketball you have the one and dones. By January or February, they've kind of already taken themselves out of school because they know they're going to the NBA draft and they're not in the right mindset. But in football, you have to stay at least 3 years. So if you have an impact sophomore that's really showing out, someone who's not looking at the NFL draft right now, they're really playing for the school, playing for the fans, playing for themselves. In basketball, I mean, I'm not going to criticize anyone, but it's a little different. So I really do love that aspect of the college game, and Duke and North Carolina, that's probably the greatest rivalry in all of sports in my eyes. You have a lot of great rivalries. I mean, you have the Red Sox and the Yankees, you have the Lakers and the Celtics. Thinking about in the NFL, you have so many divisional rivalries, the Packers and the Bears, the Packers and the Vikings. It always comes down to the wire. I mean, you have the Eagles and the Cowboys, Eagles and the Giants, the Giants and the Cowboys, the Redskins. So I really do think the best rivalry in all sports, though, is Duke and North Carolina in basketball, because given the tradition and the history, the number of impact players that just simply go in and out of there all the time, it's always a pleasure to see. But Duke comes out on top. I have to see if North Carolina can win the next meeting, which will be in their house, just 7 miles away, but it's technically in their home gymnasium. And then after that, we had another good game. We had UCLA against Oregon. UCLA number 10 in the nation, Oregon number 5. The Bruins' first loss of the season, of course, comes down to Dylan Brooks' game winner in Oregon. But UCLA, they avenged their loss last night with a 82-79 victory over the Oregon Ducks. Oregon were really in control of this game. They were up by 9 at halftime. They're up by as much as 19 early in the first half. But UCLA, with a big second half, they outscored the Ducks by 12. They come back and win. Lonzo Ball, the freshman point guard, I really don't know what else to say about the kid. He's absolutely phenomenal. I'm a huge fan of his. He had 15 points and 11 rebounds, including an absolute clutch three-pointer with 35 seconds left, which gave them a 5-point lead. He was so far behind the three-point line. He was way past NBA range. He had a defender in his face. This NBA draft coming up in the summertime is going to be phenomenal. We have a super, super deep draft. But I'm telling you, if I were to pick anyone, number one, I'd go with Lonzo. I really would. He's got great height. He's 6'6". He's unselfish. He shoots 54% from the field, 43% from three. He's averaging 15 points, call it 8 assists and 6 rebounds. He's so unselfish. He's a true traditional vintage point guard, and I love everything about the kid. And I think he's going to really tear it up come NBA time. So if anyone, I would take him. He's really showing up there. Bryce Alford had a good game. He had 12 points as well. So good win there for UCLA. They come from behind, showed a lot of heart. In the Pac-12, you have Oregon, you have UCLA, and you have Arizona, who are three really, really good teams. It'll be interesting to see what happens come Pac-12 tournament time coming up soon, and then even into the NCAA tournament. So UCLA now at 22-3, Oregon at 21-4. The number one team in the land was in action last night. That is Gonzaga. They stay unbeaten with a 30-point victory over Loyola Marymount. They're just 5 games away from completing an undefeated regular season, but they will face their toughest test of the season coming up this Saturday. They will be taking on the number 20 ranked St. Mary's Gale. St. Mary's did beat Portland last night 51-41, and the game will be in St. Mary's own backyard. Gonzaga did beat them earlier this year, although they did beat them up in Washington, not as opposed to in St. Mary's in California. So that'll be a great game to look forward to come tomorrow. Some other games. Wisconsin went to overtime to beat Nebraska 70-69. Purdue beats Indiana 69-64. Number 25 SMU, good to see them ranked again. They win 66-50 over Temple. Let's look at some of the games coming up this weekend. Tonight, within the top 25, you don't really have much. I mean, you don't have anything at all because a lot of teams really look forward to the weekend within the top matchups. So when you're looking at Saturday, a lot of great games. As I mentioned, Gonzaga is going to be in action against St. Mary's. You have Florida hosting Texas A&M. You have number 13, West Virginia, hosting Kansas State. Number 18, Duke, back in action against Clemson. Number 15, Kentucky will all be on the road to take on Alabama. Number 4, Louisville will be at home to take on Miami. Number 6, Baylor will be hosting TCU. Number 3, Kansas State will be on the, number 3, Kansas, will be on the road to take on Texas Tech. Number 23, Creighton will take on unranked DePaul. Number 2, Villanova will battle number 24, Xavier. Number 22, Butler will be taking on Providence. Number 21, Maryland will host Ohio State. Good matchup here in the ACC, a game that could come down to the wire. Number 14, Florida State on the road to take on unranked Notre Dame. Notre Dame have been ranked earlier in the season, just kind of faltering in ACC play. They're 7-5 in conference, but they're still a really good team, and they are going to be at home. Number 19, South Carolina will be on the road to take on Mississippi State. Number 9, Arizona will host Cal. Number 5, Oregon will host USC. So that's a lot of your action from Saturday in college basketball. It's going to be a great, great day. But Sunday as well, number 11, Cincinnati's on the road to take on number 25, SMU. Probably the winner of this game is going to be looking like they're in the driver's seat for the American Conference. Cincinnati 11-0 in conference, SMU 11-1. Number 10, UCLA will be hosting Oregon State. Number 7, Wisconsin will host Northwestern. And the Battle of the Virginias. Number 12, Virginia will be on the road to take on Virginia Tech. We'll take our last break of the show. After the break, we're going to talk about news within the world of basketball. Phil Jackson back on Twitter again. What did he have to say next? Magic Johnson wants to be in control of the Lakers. And Uncle Drew, the movie star. We'll talk about those stories after the break here at the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
So Phil Jackson, after he basically came out and was in support of a column criticizing Carmelo Anthony, he's back on Twitter again, and honestly, I feel like he's just trying to cover up for himself. So he used some emojis in this tweet, which, I mean, credit to Phil, the old guy, using some emojis, getting a little hip, getting a little fresh with it. So he said, after starting and he put the fire emoji, firestorm with a misunderstood tweet, debate there, I offer this peace to our society, which is torn with discord. I'm against it. Let it be. Really, Phil? I mean, come on, man. You are just trying to cover up for yourself. The Knicks, I talked about it here on Wednesday. The Knicks are a complete disaster. From top to bottom. From owner James Dolan to President Phil Jackson to the players on the court. They're just a complete mess. You have literally every single day something worse coming out in New York. You had this whole tweet from Jackson on Wednesday. You have Charles Oakley getting arrested and kicked out of the game later that night. And now you have Phil Jackson trying to cover up for himself. This place is an absolute mess and a disaster. I think Reggie Miller pretty much put it best. So Reggie Miller was on Twitter, and he basically said, if you're a free agent, how can you go to a president who bashes the stars and an owner who basically bashes the legends? Charles Oakley, of course you know, got arrested later in the game. He simply just sat down because he has a rocky relationship with James Dolan. He basically kicked him out of the game, and Charles Oakley not too happy because there were a lot of security guards around him that were right up in his face. He just started pushing and shoving them, and then he got arrested for that. So he did apologize for that regard, saying that he should have handled it better. But nevertheless, just getting absolutely kicked out of the game as soon as he sat down was not a good thing because he was, simply a fan. He's just in there buying a ticket, trying to watch a game, and because of his bad relationship with the owner, he got kicked out, which is really, really unfair, and you have everyone really criticizing Dolan. So you have Dolan and his issues, you have Phil Jackson and his issues, and simply that the team is just not very good. So, you have a lot of problems out in New York, and Phil Jackson is just kind of covering up for himself. Phil, my advice to you, do what you normally do. Say nothing. You literally have nothing to say. And then you go on Twitter and say that, and now you're trying to cover up for yourself, which of course you're going to do. But Phil, just let it go, man. Just stop talking, and everything will be fine. So anyways, Magic Johnson, he has a goal in mind after being named an advisor and a co-owner and president to Jeannie Buss for the Los Angeles Lakers. So Magic, of course, the Laker legend, said, quote, I'm working to call the shots because it only works that way. Right now I'm advising, and I get that, but at the end of the day, then we all have to come together, and somebody's got to say, I'm making the final call, all right? And who's that going to be? So we'll see what happens. So Magic Johnson is already saying he wants to call the shots. Okay. We have everything going on in the East Coast with the Knicks. Now we have the same thing going on with the Lakers. The Lakers obviously have a great history, a great tradition, great legacy. I like the hire of Luke Walton. The team's improving. They're young. They're going to get better. But you have too much power and too much authority, just like in New York. You have Magic Johnson coming in saying, I want to call the shots. I want to do everything now. I want to be the guy. Like, Magic, I know you're a great legend and you're a Laker legend, but it doesn't really work that way. You're just an advisor right now. Just kind of take it easy for a little bit. You're going in there, and too much power is not a good thing to have. I get that you want to go in there, you're motivated, you're dedicated, you want to step up to the plate and try and rebuild this team because they've made some mistakes, quite honestly. They traded for Dwight Howard. That didn't work out. You signed Steve Nash to a monster contract when he's in his 40s, and we saw how that worked out. You signed Kobe Bryant to an absolutely monstrous contract, and we saw how that worked out. So now you have all of that behind you. So you are basically starting with a clean slate. You have some good young pieces, D'Angelo Russell, Jordan Clarkson, Julius Randle, Brandon Ingram. You have a nice young core. I think Luke Walton is a good coach, and he's had more success than I would have imagined with the Lakers this year so far. So you have something to build upon. Just don't go in there and screw it up. And right now, it feels like Magic's kind of trying to push his weight around and try to be the big bad boss. And I don't think it really works that way. You have people you need to work with. You have Jeannie Buss, who's the president and the co-owner of the team, that's obviously very, very involved. So you kind of need to just take it easy from me and kind of slow down and maybe work your way up the ladder a little bit, which is hard because it's Magic Johnson. He, of course, has an ego, especially out in L.A. So, I mean, there needs to be some decisions made. That's clearly obvious. But one of them is don't jump the gun. I mean, they're 18-37. They've had their 3 worst seasons ever. But they're kind of like working their way up there. I mean, 21 wins, 17 wins. Right now they have 18, so they're already better than they were last year. They're going to get at least 3 more wins to match 21 of 2 years ago. So it's taking some time, and you can't rush to conclusions. And I think that's what Magic's trying to do, and trying to go in there and make a lot of wholesale changes right away, which I don't think is necessarily the best case. So just give it a little time, Magic. You'll be all right, and the Lakers will be all right. Get some more good pieces. Perhaps you could get a nice free agent or two and build around this team. Well, I mean, they had Mozgov, but that's not a nice free agent. So maybe you can build some nice pieces around them and get better. And, I mean, it's Magic Johnson. He knows what he's doing. He has a really good idea and a really good mindset on the team. So hopefully the Lakers can return back to their glory days. So before we end the show, Uncle Drew, Kyrie Irving, they are going to be making a movie. There is a full-length motion picture, Uncle Drew. It's going to be official. Pepsi's going to fully fund the development, and sources are telling us that some of these commercial servicing are basically kind of teasers. So this is going to happen. It's going to be basically a pickup basketball world, kind of like the Blues Brothers motion pictures, where it's like the old squad at the legendary Rucker Park, and then years later, Uncle Drew is talked about returning to the courts to compete in a tournament, which is, of course, Kyrie Irving. Kevin Love was part of it. I forget what his name was, but he was, of course, with the Pepsi commercials and everything, too. So hoping to see if Kevin Love returns. But nevertheless, I mean, this ought to be interesting to see. I mean, I always loved the way that they do things in sports now. The dress him up as the old guy and let him dominate. Cristiano Ronaldo did this in Madrid in soccer. He was a hobo. You have Uncle Drew dressing up. You have Kyrie Irving dressing up as Uncle Drew as an old guy dominating basketball. And the true natural fan reactions are obviously great. So I'm not sure if they have this sort of mindset in there of it's going to be like people thinking this is just some team of old guys and they're honestly NBA players and they show them at the end. I don't think that's the case. But nevertheless, we have the Uncle Drew movie coming later on in the year. So that'll be interesting to see what happens. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for the show today. I'd like to thank you for listening. I'd like to thank you for we're at 33 minutes and counting right now, taking 35, 40 minutes out of your day to sit down and listen, talk some basketball with me. I really do appreciate it. Of course, Pauline and I will be back in the studio together on Monday talking all things basketball here at the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. Have a good day. Have a good weekend. And I'll see you guys on Monday. Goodbye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.